It's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I am so glad you have chosen to walk this journey with me, a thread of hope, walking the footsteps of Jesus in the Old Testament. It has been so much fun for me, and I hope that you are learning and maybe even diving a little bit deeper, because we can only do so much here, and there is so much more. But regardless, I am glad that you are here today. Today, we're going to continue our walk with the prophets as we jump into a little bit of Amos and a little bit of Hosea. And we're going to start with Amos. And it turns out that there are some really wealthy people in Israel. Really wealthy. It also turns out that sometimes they're wealthy at the expense of the poor, the downtrodden, and the orphans. Not at all what God is looking for. Not at all what Jesus will come to teach us. But he's not here yet, and they are feeling like they're doing all this on their own, and they don't need anybody to help them, the wealthy ones. So Amos has issued a warning that this is not right. This isn't the way that things should be. And he warns them that God is going to use Assyria to punish them. And they don't believe it, because they think that they're in the position they are because God is blessing them. And so they completely dismiss what Amos is saying to them. Probably not their best bet. The book of Amos is full of Amos paints a really terrifying picture. The Israelites are not buying into it, but we know it went ahead and happened. However, the entire book is not full of negativity. And in all of God's redemption plan, as we have pulled on the threads and woven all of the threads together to help us see what is in the Old Testament about Jesus, there is a glimmer of hope. And of course, that hope is always Jesus. If you look at Amos in his very last verses, 11 through 15, I believe, in chapter 9. In that day, I will restore David's fallen shelter. I will repair its broken walls and restore its ruins, and will rebuild it as it used to be, so that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations that bear my name. All the nations, declares the Lord, who will do these things. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman, and the planter by the one treading the grapes. New wine will drip from the mountains and flow from all the hills. And I will bring my people, Israel, back from exile. They will rebuild the ruined cities and live in them. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. They will make gardens and eat their fruit. I will plant Israel in their own land, never again to be uprooted from the land I have given them. So there's always just a glimmer of hope. God's redemption plan is constantly moving forward to the point where we are redeemed by Jesus and ultimately spend time in heaven with him. This is confirmed in Acts verses 15 through 17, that the land promise continues. And I think that even today we can learn from Amos, because a lot of what people were seeing in the time of Amos, we're seeing now. And I think that we take for granted and think that a lot of the things that we are blessed with on this earth come from us, from our work, from what we do. And that we forget where God is in this picture. So I think we can take that as a little bit of a warning even for us today. And now we're going to dip into Hosea. I love this book, although it's very difficult to read, but I love the love in this book. I feel bad for Hosea. God gave him a love for Gomer that she is never going to be able to live up to. She's just not who he would typically pick to fall in love with and have a wife. But I think that Hosea's love for Gomer so beautifully depicts God's love for Israel. And I think that Gomer is a great depiction of Israel, as well as their children, of the people of Israel. So as we jump into chapter 11, God has bestowed countless blessings on Israel. From the time he exiled them from Egypt, he is constantly blessing them over and over again. But they just don't get it. 11:1 and 2, the more they were called, the more they went away, sacrificing to Baals and burnt offerings to idols. You guys, they just can't get over it. And we see that in Gomer. He loves her. He takes care of her. He continually goes and gets her and brings her back. And yet she can't stay for whatever reason. We've read in the Bible that God himself says he is a jealous God and that he wants no other gods before him. He is our God. We should worship anything else. And of course, Israel is constantly finding someone else to worship, something else to worship, something else that's more important than God, or maybe even as important as God. He doesn't do the things he does just because of the anger that he feels. But he made us in his image so we could have an intimate relationship with him. He wants that, and he wants that for us, and he loves us that much. He is going to do whatever he needs to do to get as many of us into that relationship with him as possible. So yes, God is angry, but he demands our full attention because he wants that relationship with us. He is holy. We cannot go to him as we are now. We are sinners. We fall short of the glory of God. So Israel could not have that relationship with him except through the offerings and the sacrifices that he demanded in Leviticus. But they weren't always doing that for him now. The redemption plan is what keeps us moving forward, closer to that relationship with God. Can you feel Hosea's despair when he has to go back and find his wife? Can you imagine his broken heart when she takes their children and worships Baal? When she leaves again and has another affair? When the kids easily worship Baal because they don't understand his God? And yet, God has put this love in his heart, and he brings her back from slavery again. Gomer is just like Israel. Her children are like the people of Israel. Can you feel God's despair when Israel disobeys him, when they worship idols, when they give burnt offerings to other idols? Can you just feel his despair, his broken heart that necessitates a Savior for us? All a part of his redemption plan. Isn't that beautiful? Until tomorrow, have a wonderful day.